Personally, I believe that relationships are the key to becoming sober, to long-term sobriety. And one of the things that holds you back and helps at the same time are the type of friends you have. And I want to go more into depth into friends, because friends for me were the difference between sobriety and continuing to drink unhealthily. So on one side, I had friends that drank and they were part of my social life, and they wanted to go out and have a good time and drink, or come round, watch telly and drink, things like that. That was the social side of the drinking. But there were also friends that were not so much concerned about the drinking. They just didn't like or didn't think that the amount of alcohol that I consumed was good for me or good for anyone. They were the type of people who they'd go out and they'd have a glass of wine with a meal, or they'd have a social pint or a couple of pints after work, on a Friday when everyone went to the pub. And those friends were the friends that I tended to move towards after I decided that I was quitting alcohol and stopping this stupid addiction that I had, because the addiction was obviously causing me a lot of personal problems. And when I told my friends, the friends that I went drinking with, the ones that I went out on a good night out, or we meet up in the pub almost every night, they didn't appreciate it. They didn't want me to be the person who stopped drinking. What I'm trying to get at is that your social life changes. Your friends disappear. These so-called friends. I mean, one of the things about sobriety is you soon work out who the real friends in your life are, the people that will step up and help you. But you also find out the ones that don't want to help you, because if you've been part of a social circle that relies on drink as sort of like the cohesion, the glue that keeps you together, and you take the glue away, obviously it's going to break up. It's going to fall to pieces. And you shouldn't be worried about that, because you're choosing to go down a different path. You will find that you'll lose. I'd say if you drink a lot and part on your social service, social sort of group are drinkers, and that's what you do all the time, then they won't stick with you. They won't want anything to do with you, because if you get sober, that highlights their problem. That highlights their drinking problem. And they don't want you to hold a mirror up against them. You're a walking reason for them to stop drinking that they want to ignore. And that's part of the problem. The other side of it is that the relationships with your friends that don't drink a lot, that you maybe you went round for a cup of tea or whatever, or you socialized at an event that had no alcohol, which is rare when you do drink, because most reasons why you go to anything is to drink. They become stronger in a way. And also you've got to look at those friends that don't drink a lot, that maybe have said something to you, and you finally realize, yeah, they were right, but I didn't want to listen to them because I really enjoyed drinking. Those friends are the strongest friends you'll ever have. Those, and it'll only be one or two or three people that are like that, because for some reason they stuck with you even though you were drinking and maybe even making a mess. You might have even got into arguments with them when you were drunk. I don't want to do this. You can't tell me I can't drink, this kind of thing. But they're still stuck with you. They haven't left you. Eventually, believe me, they will if you push them far enough. And that's another problem, because you end up with no circle of friends or that have your best interest at heart, which is the one thing that your drinking friends, they don't have your best interest at heart. They don't care. Honestly, I've talked to ex-drinking friends. I've met them and I've told them, I'm sober and all that. And they're like, well, yeah, good for you. Slap on the back, being sarcastic. And I'm not bitter about them, because they were friends at the time, and some of them were, I would consider, good friends, because they did help me out. They would come round and give us a hand doing something, or, pick us up when I couldn't get home because I was too drunk to drive, etc. There was that, but the people that really counted, it's almost like that fairy tale of, you don't see the beautiful woman who's your friend because you're looking at all the other beautiful women that aren't your friend. And true love is standing next to you. And that's really what the friends that will help you the most are. They are the people that you don't see them. You're blinded by everything else that's going on, by your own addiction, by your need for alcohol, for your want to get smashed and chemically cosh your brain, which is one way of putting it, because that's what it is. It's a painkiller. It literally is. It's the painkiller of loneliness. And one of the bigger problems is that if you don't have any friends at all, that would be so difficult in my mind, because I didn't go through that, because I did have friends, and I had quite a lot of friends. I mean, I'm quite a sociable person. That didn't mean to say that I didn't drink on my own, because when I worked away, I worked in different countries and etc. and away from home, and I was living in a hotel room, then yeah, I would drink alone all the time. Barman's your best friend that night until the next barman comes on shift, and then he's your best friend. That kind of thing. And going back to the friends aspect of it, you see, it's split into two: real friends and your drinking friends. And your drinking friends don't want a person sat there saying, oh, I've given up. Everyone's done it. I know that they have. At one point, you've had a reason not to drink because you need to be sober for the next day. Maybe you're getting up early to go to work, or you're getting up early to go on holiday, or you've got antibiotics because you've got the clap or something like that. I'm not judging. So you go out and you're drinking orange juice. Everyone goes for orange juice and lemonade. I don't know why it is. The one thing that you're drinking. And it's kind of like they're looking at you. They don't believe you. That's the other thing. It's you can feel it. No, you've got to really put in the effort to say, no, honestly, I stood on a nail and I got an infection in my foot, and I really need to not drink alcohol because it says it. Now, I believe there's only one antibiotic that causes really bad illness if you drink. Though all the rest of them you can drink on, but I think the doctor just does it as a blanket thing, just in case. No, don't drink when you're taking these. You really mustn't drink. Yeah, that's the other thing. You just have to test the water, literally. If you're really, really thinking about stopping drinking, I suggest one of your night outs, you go and you say, oh no, I've got to be up first thing in the morning. Any reason, I've got to go and pick up the daughter from somewhere, or I've got to take this thing, or there's some reason, because you don't want to drink and drive, or you don't want to turn up at a place, smelling of alcohol. Maybe you've got an interview first thing in the morning. Just make an excuse up and spend the night not drinking. I know it's difficult, and honestly, but that will be one of your most difficult challenges. It's just do one night. Just say, right, I'm not drinking this day or tonight, and then go out and be social and make up an excuse. I know you shouldn't lie, honestly, but this is for you, and a few white lies. I don't find a problem with that. But listen to your mind when you're in there, and observe what's going on. They just don't trust you. They're like, oh yeah, and you'll stay sober, right? And it's only one night. I mean, I'm not advocating drinking. You'll stay sober for enough hours that you will see what people are like when they're drunk. And that is a huge eye-opener. Just look around you. Just instead of like, the one thing I found with alcohol is it blanks out everything around you. It kind of creates this like sphere around you that because you're so focused on the alcohol and you're so focused on the conversations that you're having with the people that are you drinking with, that the rest of the world, and it's almost like if you've got toothache and you take a painkiller, and you don't really realize that the pain's going away gradually until at some point you go, and it's no longer painful, and that's the thing around you. It shrinks. Your world shrinks. The more you drink, the more you become intoxicated. The less focused you are, but the more focused you're on one particular thing. Everything else around you. And I think this is why people end up, walking off the sides of bridges by mistake. I know one person who accidentally, and it was accidental, well, I don't know the person, but I've seen the video about it. They accidentally fell in front of a train, waiting for a train. And when they did the autopsy, the blood alcohol level was enormous. Now, on the video, it shows that he wasn't intending to do it. So yeah, just spend one night, that's all I'm asking, one night where you're going out and you don't drink, and just use that mental notepad in your brain that I taught you about, and jot down the differences, because you're not getting that euphoria of the numbness of alcohol. You're staying in normal. You're staying normal, as if, just a normal mindset, and you will see the differences, and it will be quite frightening for you, honestly. So yeah, that's part of the friendship thing. So the other thing was that family, and it's strange for me because my father, he always liked to drink. His social life was drinking. And that is absolutely, there wasn't anything else. There was the Labour Club, there was a local pub, there was another pub down the road where a few friends went drinking. And yeah, he went out, let's say, 3 or 4 nights a week. I don't know exactly how much he drank when I was younger because I wasn't in the pub. But he'd have a few pints and a couple of whiskey chasers. Later on, I used to go drinking with him because we all went into the local pub because there was only one village pub. So you know how much. And all of his friends, all of them, they were all in one corner, all propping up. They had their own personal piece of the bar in the corner, and they were all drinking. Their life was buying rounds for each other, and you could see them by the end of the night. They'd have racked up double shots, lots of them, waiting to be drunk. His life revolved around social drinking. And I'm telling you now, it cut his life short. But that's the absolute truth. It really did. It did not do him any good at all. I mean, he's passed away now, God bless him, but he would have lived a lot longer. I have another friend, he's a friend of my mum's, to be honest, and he must be 90 now, And he doesn't drink a lot. He likes to walk. He's got a dog or whatever. But he's 90. But one of the things I asked him was, what do you think got you to 90? And he says, well, I don't drink a lot. I don't drink and I don't smoke. And it's simple as that. And then I try to eat okay and I get a bit of exercise. That's all you need. That's it. That's what keeps you alive. On the opposite side of that, my mum wasn't a drinker. She never drank. She'd had the odd glass of wine, whatever. I've seen her have like a brandy, like a wedding anniversary or something like that. But she didn't drink. In fact, she didn't like actually going out with my father when they were younger, drinking and socializing. She always tried to make up an excuse not to. But that's a different story. Her friends' circle, I noticed, are people who don't drink. Literally. They very rarely drink. If they go out, say on the Mothers Union or Women's Institute, they have a meal and one glass of wine, and no one ever drinks any more than that. There's nobody there who's like knocking these drinks, especially on their table, their circle of friends, their closest friends. And yeah, I mean, she's knocking on now. She's as sprightly as you can get. She's very cogent. And that's the other thing. It's this circle of friends, and it's even family. One of the biggest problems, I think, is relationships with your girlfriend, wife, husband. If they drink and you both drink, it's very, very difficult for one of you to stop drinking. And I mean, very difficult. I don't know one couple that has. I know that part of the group that I talk in, there is a couple in that, and they struggle. They really struggle to stop drinking. And I have no answer for that, because I can't. I mean, I'll be honest. When I decided to give up drinking, I knew that I would have to split with my ex-girlfriend. I knew that it had to end. And it was a hard decision because I really did like her. But the problem was, I'd tried to give up so many times, and there'd always been an excuse, and there'd always been like, I'd gone round to her house or whatever, and it'd be like she'd had a bottle of wine open and half of it disappeared, and another bottle, one of the glasses filled, and I just fell back into it, because it was just easy, and I was amongst people that drank. One of my friends, his parents, they were both alcoholics, and they both died quite young. One of them died in the late 40s, and the other one died in the early 50s. And he's never drunk. Isn't that strange? It's weird, because he saw what it was doing to his parents. And I remember that his father died, first of all, and his mum, then he was telling me that his mum had found a new partner. That partner was an alcoholic as well. He started to explain it to me. He started to say, alcoholics need alcoholics, because you can't sit there with it. You can't be in a relationship where one person doesn't drink and one person drinks a lot. It just doesn't work, because all the person who drinks a lot, who obviously you're in a relationship with, you must either love each other or like each other a lot. They're going to be worried about you drinking a lot. That is one of the biggest problems with relationship alcohol, because if you both drink, then you're in your little bubble. It doesn't matter. You both like to have a drink, get jolly or whatever, or drink and watch the telly and take the piss out of people on it. That's fine. You both go out, you socialize, you're in your social circle of couples that drink. But if, let's say, one of those people in a relationship says, oh, he goes to the doctors and the doctor says, if you don't stop drinking, which doesn't work, to be honest. Let's just say it as a scenario. Says, if you don't stop drinking, you can't have this operation and this operation is going to save your life. The chances are that the relationship will be very, very difficult, if not impossible. If that person says, right, yeah, I'm giving up because I'm going to die. My life is worth more, which doesn't really happen with alcoholics. Giving them a reason like that very rarely stops them from drinking. And I found that quite sobering as well, because at the time I was drinking when my friend told me about this. And I realized that I was in a relationship with somebody who was also a drinker, who also used it to numb the pain, push herself out of the reality that she was in. When I realized that when I went round, there was always alcohol. When she came to my house, I'd always have enough alcohol for two of us. Isn't that crazy when you think about it? And then you worked out how much it was, the alcohol you needed for you both to get really drunk. That is another crazy thing that I wrote down and I was talking about in one of the groups, is that you become a master at dosages. That's another crazy thing. Getting back to the relationship, I had to literally give up my relationship. I had to end it. I knew it. I know this can't be done for everyone. And I've always said, I don't have a magic bullet. I don't have a pill. I don't have anything that's going to cure your particular problem. And I'm only talking about how I did it. But the way that I did it was I literally cut everything. I literally cut off my drinking friends. I moved house. I moved away from where that particular social life was. I moved into a life that was far less complicated. Again, I had to end the relationship, which was very difficult for me. It was a relationship that was harmful for both of us, I suppose. So that's what I'm trying to get at. I don't have the answer to that. I really don't. There may be psychologists out there or counselors that can. If that comes across in a conversation to me, I literally hold my hands up and I say, I can't give you any advice. I can only tell you what I had to do, what I had to sacrifice. And obviously that sounds, a bit ingenuous, but it's not. You are sacrificing your old life so that you can have a better new life. The more things that you sacrifice, and I'm not talking about selling your house or anything like that. I mean, I did. Yeah, I admit. I was determined, and I'm always one of these kind of people that if I think right, I just go over the top. I need to do it. I need to compress everything down into one place, work out everything all the rules that I need to live by, and then do it. And it worked for me. And obviously I'm now sober. It's 10 years. That's another aspect of relationships. And it's something that I honestly can't give you any advice on. It is a choice. It is looking at what you have now. And if you're in a relationship where you know that it's the same with smoking, it's the same with drugs. It's very rare I've ever met a couple that don't both smoke. And it's very rare I've met a couple that have had drug problems that only one of them had the drug problem, the other one didn't. I mean, it does happen. There's the sneaky drug takers, Most of the time, I found that those are the hardest things. It's the hardest thing to give up is an addiction when you're in a relationship with somebody else who's addicted. And again, I don't have the answers to that. That's the choices you have to make. You know the choices you have to make. In your own mind, in that little notebook that you wrote. But that's your choice. Thanks for listening. Check out my other videos and podcasts. and I hope it was helpful for you.